Hi, welcome to another episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm Steve Richardson, a bankruptcy attorney trying to keep people on their path to financial stability and independence through education. Long term investing and saving is key to building wealth and financial independence. However, that wealth should also have meaning to you. Aligning your financial goals with a cause that resonates with you can transform your life, shifting your focus from mere accumulation to creating positive change. That's why in this episode of the podcast, I talked to repeat guest Derrick Kinney about how you can get clarity on the purpose of the wealth you're building in order to achieve true fulfillment in life. I have back on the show today Derrick Kinney, the CEO and driving force behind the company Good Money Framework. We discussed how to teach your kids about money back in episode 130 and having the right money mindset in episode 164. But he also talks to his clients quite a bit about money beliefs that are the key to your wealth. So I thought I'd bring him back on the show because he's the perfect person who can talk to you about that. So welcome back to the show, Derrick. This is your third time, your hat trick.
So, Steve, do I get a T-shirt or a hat or maybe a
I
nice koozie with your face on it?
Yeah, I think there's some prizes and swag that go with
Merch.
that. We'll have to look into that.
It's
Uh,
great to be back with you again. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. So views about money are very important. How we think about it can really shape how we deal with it. Because if you think of money as plentiful and you got lots of it, you may tend to spend it.
Right.
Or if you think that you don't have enough, you might hoard it too much. So your money mindset's very important. But really linking that your money beliefs to your wealth uh, and having a purpose behind it, not just saving for retirement, but having sort of a greater uh, purpose for it. So, what's the science behind all this? What tells us why connecting money to purpose makes us happier in life?
Well, it's interesting. So many people think that if I just have a certain number, if I can get to that seven figures in my bank account, or I can have that bulging investment account, that suddenly I'm going to feel happy and fulfilled. And what happens is so many people I find sacrifice their family, their business, their own personal interests, their joy for the pursuit of all this money, thinking and believing the lie that once I have all this, surely I'll be happy. And then they reach it and they look around and nobody's there with them. They've left a trail of bad decisions behind them, broken relationships, and they realize, oh my gosh, having all this money doesn't equal the happiness I was promised. And so as I dug into that, it really bothered me because as I built a financial planning business over 25 years and have helped literally thousands of people help with their money beliefs and transform them from middle class into millionaires and all different types of situations. What I found is there was one thing that when people did it, it brought automatic fulfillment to their lives. And that was identifying a cause they cared about. So many people have busy lives and they've got kids and grandkids and job worries and economic concerns. And, the average psychologist tells us, as a side note here, Steve, that the average person experiences 3 to 4 crises per year, interrupted by the occasional emergency. Okay, so that means we're either about to go into a crisis or we're coming out of one every day of our lives. And so once
Oh,
you accept that, that's part of life. And so if you don't have a cause or something that's meaningful or something you're passionate about, it can make life more worrisome. And so, what I tell people, this is going to sound very simple, is what's a cause that you care about? Is it clean water, homelessness, hunger, whatever it might be? And what's an injustice in the world or a wrong that you want to right? And then you decide to do something about it, whether you're working for yourself or working for someone else, taking part of that money and using it to make a difference in that cause. And what we find is it allows people to take the focus off of their own needs and worries and concerns. And when they feel like they're helping someone else, even in a very small way, it makes a big, big difference.
yeah. absolutely. And not only, kind of depressing that thing about four crises a
Isn't it?
year. And then I'm like, wait a minute, every 3 months I'm going to have a big problem? That is not an encouraging message for people going through life. And I got to tell you, maybe I'm just fortunate, my wife and I, but we don't have a crisis every 3 months. So maybe we're the exception that proves the rule. I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting because, and again, I don't want to depress anyone. When my wife and I were in a Bible study, this was when we were first married. I'll tell this
Uh,
story. We'd go around the room and we'd talk about, hey, how's life going? And none of us had kids, and we had our first jobs and buying first houses, and we'd talk about how life was going. But there was this one couple that always had bad stuff happening to them, like always. It was like they had this bag of poop that just hung over their head, okay? And they would always say something that struck me later on, especially Steve. They would say, once we get past this, then it will get better. Once we get past this, then it's going to be better. And what I realized years later was what they needed to realize was that's life. And once they forgot about, hey, once I get past this, then it gets better, is embracing the challenge you may be facing right now and realizing that's just life. And how do I get through that? And so that's why I say that example so many times, even successful people, they let small issues, they let crises, they let the worries completely derail them from their goals. And so when you have goals and you know what you're working toward, ideally as a couple, financially and personally, and you have a cause that you both care about, and you're focused on those things, now you can lay your head on the pillow at night and feel like you lived a day of meaning and purpose. And whatever comes your way, you feel more balanced and not sort of thrown to the whim of whatever the winds are on the ocean that day.
and also financially, I mean, if a lot of these crises are financial in nature, whether a tree fell on your house or you get into an auto accident or something where you have an unexpected expense, knowing that in your financial plan, you are setting aside money for an emergency in an emergency fund. And that can say, well, if it happens, I'm going to be better prepared for it because I put the money aside.
Right.
And if and when it does happen, you say, okay, this is bad, but we have the money and we're going to be all right. So I think that helps that mindset or thinking about what do I planning for the unfortunate in your life even before you retire. That can give you more peace of mind, right?
That's exactly right. And it's interesting. I'm reminded of a woman that I met with. This was several years ago. She was a longtime client,
Mhm.
and I came into the office on a Saturday morning to catch up on some things, and I saw my voicemail light blinking. And a voice inside said, Derek, you need to check that message and listen to it. And so I did. And shockingly was a panicked woman's voice who said to me, Derek, I know it's Saturday. I hope you get this message. Please call me back right away. They're about to send me to jail. Well, Steve, have you ever had anybody leave a message like that on your voicemail before?
Well, being an attorney, more likely, uh, but not for a while. I haven't done that type of work for a long time, but it wouldn't. But I'm sure a lot of lawyers get that call.
Yeah. Well, and so what I would ask our listeners is, as a financial advisor, maybe it's better to ask, have you ever received a call like that? I never have. And so I knew I couldn't wait until Monday to call her back. Called her back immediately and I said, why do you think they're going to send you to jail? This was a 15-year client, successful woman on the outside. And she said, Derek, I got this letter in the mail that said, because I wrote a check that there wasn't money in my account, they're going to haul me off to jail. And I said,
Oh,
well, tell me about the letter. She said, well, it says I didn't move money from my savings to checking. I wrote a check. And I said, okay, first of all, you're not going to go to jail. You're not going to be wearing pinstripes this weekend. So let your mind rest. But I said, out of curiosity, why in the world did you think they were going to send you to jail? So she begins to tell me a story, Steve. She says, Derek, When I was 7 years old, I overheard a phone call that my dad received from a store owner. Her dad had gone to the store to buy school supplies for herself and her sister, and he had accidentally bounced a check. And the store manager called and said, I know you did it on purpose. I'm going to send the cops to your house and have you arrested. Well, she, being 7 years old, overhears this,
Ugh.
and now she's 55 years old. And that letter triggered her to think if you make a financial mistake, you write a hot check, you're going to go to jail. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call you back on Monday. I'll help you call the bank and move the money from savings to checking. We'll take care of that. But let me have you come in the office next week. I want to unpack these money beliefs that you've got. And so she came in the office and she began to talk about how, Derrick, I keep getting passed over for raises. I keep missing out on promotions that I'm clearly qualified for. And most importantly, I'd always wondered why she never took my financial advice. She would have made a lot more money, but she was wanting to not take the risk of losing money or looking stupid. And so we began to unpack this belief system she had. And what she realized was she was letting something she observed as a 7-year-old basically cloud her financial eyesight as a 55-year-old woman. On the outside, she looked the picture of success, but on the inside, she was this wilting flower. And the good part of the story is 3 months later, after we met, she got a $20,000 a year raise and a promotion that she should have had probably 10 years ago, all because she changed her money beliefs in her mind first,
Mhm.
and then it began to positively impact her bank account.
Yeah. Well, yeah, these deep-seated memories and things like that can create a very emotional reaction when they come up. And what's terrible is that no creditor or collection agency should do that. I don't know what the laws are in other states, but in New Jersey, if you bounce a check, then the creditor, you know, sends you notice saying you need to make good on this.
Yes.
And if you don't make good on it in 10 days, there is a presumption that you never intended to make good on it and you bounced it on purpose. But you're given that chance to pay it. And so many times I hear from people, and I've done, have articles on my website, and I think I did some videos on it, that creditors, you're not going to jail because you didn't pay the debt. We don't have debtor's prison in this country.
Right.
But despite that, people seem to think that. And yeah, it's terrible that when something like that happens. But yeah, you're talking about the science behind it and feeling better that you're better prepared. And would you say that having that purpose, say you're like in your 20s or your early 30s, and retirement is a long way away, do you think that these having this purpose and this goal makes it easier to focus on something now that you're not going to garner the benefits from for another 2 or 3 decades?
Yeah, I think it does. And it's interesting because as we study different generations and different ages of people, one of the things we find right now is that as people are leaving college or they're leaving high school and beginning their career in that first real job of their life, a lot of them are not as money motivated as perhaps you and I were at that same age. I was the guy that I was trying to find ways to work around having to wait to age 16 to get my driver's license. I got my first job at 15. Now we hear people, I mean, this is a crazy story, but some friends of ours, they were still dropping their daughter off at college, driving her to school because she didn't have her driver's license. And so there's a much less sense of urgency for whatever reason in this younger generation, which, by the way, presents a great opportunity for the younger generation. When you stand out and you take more responsibility, you will clearly position yourself way above your peers. But having said that, what I find is that when I work with younger people is not just talking about the money, but how can we help them, give them a reason to make more money and then do more good with it. Oftentimes, the make more money part by itself is not very sexy and appealing. For me, I thought I just liked making money. The more I helped clients make money, I made money. It improved my quality of life. I could invest more. It was just fun. But there's that missing piece in today's generation of, okay, I make more money, but now what? And so tying that cause is very, very important. I'll tell you a quick story to talk about how it affects really people's emotions and how it's so powerful. There was a study done a couple years ago, and they took two focus groups. They had each of them review a new car ad that was coming out. And so one group was asked to look at the car, and they talked in the commercial about the features and benefits, how fast it went, the colors available, and they measured the respondents' brain response to that ad. And then they showed the same car company, but instead of talking about the features and benefits, they talked about how with each purchase of this car, a portion goes to fund the dreams of first-time Olympians and how people who were economically impoverished would have an opportunity to represent the USA. And so they measured how people responded. Now, as you might expect, the ad that described just the features and the benefits and the colors wasn't much change in brain activity at all. But the ad where it showed the car company would give a portion of the proceeds to support Olympic athletes, the emotion that the scientists registered, get this, Steve, was similar to the emotion as to looking into the eyes of someone you loved.
Wow.
Looking into the eyes of someone you loved. That just from a car commercial showing that a portion of the proceeds would support Olympic athletes. And part of that scientific research has showed that giving makes us feel good, but
Mhm.
we don't even have to do it. If we see other people doing it, it makes us feel good, and it wants us to do business with that person or that company. And so further science then reveals that oftentimes if we go to make a purchase and all things being equal, if there's three companies we're choosing from, they're all the same quality, the same, roughly the same price point, we will actually pay more for the product or service that has a cause attached to it. For example, Bombas socks or the shoe company or the places where you buy one, give one, very, very popular. But even on the local level, if you're an advisor, an attorney, a realtor, and you can let people know, look, when you work with us, a portion of what we make goes to help a local cause that we all care about. It endears those potential clients to you. You think they want to work just with the smartest business person. They want to work with the person that makes them feel good about spending money. And so never forget that. But when you can tie a cause to your cash and meaning to your money and purpose to your profits, that's really the key to supercharge growth because people are attracted to that. But also, it is the antidote for burnout for yourself. If you're just solely focused on making money, you're going to burn out. You're going to be that Roman candle that burns on both ends and eventually they meet in the middle. But if you can tie that cause to it, it gives you purpose and it keeps you focused on the bigger picture.
Mhm. No question, and certainly in terms of not just retirement, long-term savings goals and projects, but also short-term. If you, uh, as you say, as you're setting aside money, as you're saving money, you're thinking about, well, I may not be able to spend this money right now on something I want, but it's going into an emergency fund, so
Right.
that if I have that quarterly crisis, I'll be able to deal with it, which lowers stress and worry and everything. But also, a portion of the money I'm saving goes into charitable donations, and that gives you sort of the dopamine hit of more immediate rewards that you may be setting aside this money over here into long-term goals like retirement or a child's education, but also you're putting money aside over here for a more short-term goal that'll make you feel better about your money and saving and motivate you to set money aside, right?
That's right. That's right. And to make it simple, so many people think in the economy, well, if I wait until I have a bigger amount to give, then
Mhm.
I can have bigger impact. That just makes sense. There's the future value of money concept, that the future value is typically always greater than the present value. But when it comes to giving in what I call your generosity purpose, you actually have to flip that script, because what happens is the longer you wait to give, you're missing out on the impact that you could have. So in the
Mhm.
giving world, the present value is actually greater than the future value, even if it's a smaller amount, because that money goes to work right away, it can impact people's lives. And then those people, because of the impact you had, their lives see that gain, that ROI, if you will, on their own lives. And so it's very, very important to think like that. But what I would also tell people is you want to keep it simple. So, for example, if there are business owners listening right now, one of my favorite things to do, and I still do this to this day, is I will sponsor a teacher of the month and a student of the month at my local high school. Okay. So, and this is going to sound so crazy, but I will bring a $50 Amazon gift card for the teacher, a $25 Amazon gift card for the student. They print up a certificate. And what's happening now is the high schools have bought into it, where they'll actually take their cell phone, and we go in together. There's the principal, the vice principals, myself as the sponsor of this, and we surprise the teacher of the month, and the students are clapping, they video it. I get to shake their hand, present the certificate, and then we get to post all of this on social media. And then the school thanks me. Thank you to Derrick Kinney for sponsoring our Teacher of the Month. And so all of this is so good for business, because of all the financial advisors, of all the coaches in town, everybody being equal, people want to work with a person who care about what they care about as well. And
Mhm.
everybody loves supporting local education. Everybody loves supporting young people. No one will ever say, down with education, down with young people. Nobody ever says that. And so when you can tie your cause to that, to helping make people's lives better, and also getting to recognize a student of the month, it's so, so powerful. And so I would just ask yourself, what is something that you find you're passionate about? And then begin to do it. I do that once a month. I do it at 3 different high schools here in town, and I love it. When I leave the high school, Steve, I call my wife and I say, is it possible to feel any better than I feel right now? It is so much fun, and it cost me $75. But it brings me so much joy. It
Mhm.
just is fuel for the rest of the day, knowing that I helped make someone's life better in that moment.
Mhm. Well, that kind of leads us into the next question. You've given some examples, but um, how does a listener identify a cause that aligns with their values? I mean, they may know what their values are, but how do they pick out something that they can do that will really inspire them?
Ask yourself this question. What is it that makes you mad when you see it? When you drive on the highway and you see trash on the highway, or when you pull up to a stoplight and you see homeless people asking for donations, or when you see things on the news about all the plastic bottles in the ocean, or when you think about why aren't more business people involved in mentoring young people? I mean, whatever it is, what is it that just makes you mad? And you say, why does it have to be like that?
Hmm.
Because inside you know it's just not right. That's where I'd start. It might be a global cause, it might be a very local cause. It might be, I'm going to buy a book once a month and give it to a young person who I see hope and potential in, but their economic circumstances are holding them back. It can be that simple, with a note from you that says, hey, Steve, I see you. I see great potential in you, and I believe your best days are yet ahead. To your success, your name. Let me give you this book. That's it. I mean, the key is keeping it very, very simple. I'm a very simple guy, but simple can achieve big results if done on a consistent basis. And so just ask yourself, for me, the reason I picked local education was when I was a senior in high school, nobody ever came back to my high school. There were never any, quote, successful business people that came back to give me a vision as to what my future could look like. Why am I taking history and science and math, and how will this really help me in the real world?
Hmm.
Nobody ever came back. And so when I graduated college, I said, I don't want that to happen to any more students. And so I became real involved in my alma mater high school, and I live in the same city today, Sam Houston High School. And I would go back there every month and present a teacher of the month and a student of the month so that I could invest in those people. And what happened now, that was 20 years ago. Some of those people have gone on to become school board members, elected officials, they've started businesses, they have families. And occasionally, still to this day, someone will walk up and say, "Hey, Mr. Kinney, do you remember when you presented me that Amazon gift card?" And I'm like, dude, that was 15 years ago. And they remember it. And the whole point is you might think that your smallest gesture is meaningless,
Hmm.
but it goes in people's memory banks as someone believed in me, someone saw me, and someone encouraged me. And you can't put a price on that. And so what we find is, especially clients who have money that want to invest, or they need legal services or real estate, high dollar types of clients, a lot of them, their schedules don't allow them to be as community involved as they would like. And so what they do is, and I find this shocking, but I see it time and time again, they will specifically look for professionals who help provide them a doorway to be part of something bigger. So even if they can't have the time to do it, they'll partner with a financial advisor, an attorney, a realtor, a CPA, whoever it is who provides quality service, but also is involved in the community, because it makes them feel like there's a little bit extra polish on them
Hmm.
by choosing to partner with that professional, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Well, your story of the teacher of the year and that sort of thing reminds me. Uh, when I was in high school, I was part of the drama club, and I was in plays. I did community theater, things like that. But believe it or not, all these years later, more than I care to admit, uh, a lot of those theater kids from my high school, stay in contact with one another, and we get together periodically. And the teacher that was there, that was the drama coach, still lives in the area. He's
Wow,
retired,
I love that.
but we all get together with him. And one of these kids, went on to be a director. Uh, he directed a Broadway play which won a Tony, and
Wow.
the play won a Tony, and the lead actor Bryan Cranston won a Tony, and he is now the artistic and creative director of the Perelman Performing Arts Center, a theater in uh, uh, the World Trade Center area of New York City.
Wow. Okay.
So what we did was we did fundraised and donated money into a nonprofit, that we wanted to raise $25,000, so that the income from that would produce $1,000 scholarship every year to a senior who is in the theater program, and wants to move on maybe to a career in theater, and they'll be awarded that money. And there's also, in addition, there's a big plaque on one of the walls of the high school auditorium, where we have plates for each year the recipient of that scholarship. So that's giving back and encouraging that sort of behavior, desires, and wanting to move on, and saying, look, it's tough. It's a tough profession to get into, but don't think that you can't. Don't not try. Look, this guy over here became a Tony Award winning director, so you can do it too. It's possible. And we
Yeah.
have other people that have gone into theater, not as big as you might think. Another high school friend of mine, he lives in uh, New York City, in Harlem, and he's in TV shows, movies. He's directed plays and light opera, and things like that. So they go on to be very successful.
Fascinating. And I love what I love about that is that interconnectivity with those relationships. And it's such a good example when there's encouragement and there's belief expressed in people. And what I find is, especially with young people, even when they're in high school or even whether they go to college or not, they're still young people.
Mhm.
They're still learning. And those formative ages when they can hear from people to encourage them is so, so powerful. I was also thinking too, Steve, as we were talking, it's one thing to be generous, but also to run a successful business and to be the standout person as an employee, you need to own a problem. I like to say that when you own a problem, you own your success.
Mhm.
For example, you're a very well-respected attorney, and if you were just a below average attorney, well, you might give a lot of money and be very charitable, but that only goes so far. People need you to be the best attorney you can be, right?
Mhm.
And so people need to remember that whether you're an advisor, realtor, attorney, CPA, whatever service provider you are, you need to own a problem. In other words, your target market, who your ideal client is, what worry and fear do they take to bed with them at night that keeps
Mhm.
them awake at night? What
Mhm.
what is that problem? And then for you to understand that problem in a way where you actually own that problem. You are known as, I own that problem. I have the solution for that problem, and I can give you practical ways to solve it. That attracts new clients like a magnet. And then when you own that problem and you also support local causes and you're charitably inclined and involved in the community, it's a two punch that is simply irresistible
Mhm.
because now they're working with the specialist and they're also working with the caring person in the community that is making other people's lives better. Those two things create a moat around your business. But also for people listening right now that may be saying, well, Derek, that sounds great for people who own their own business, but I work for someone else. Well, the best way to begin to make more money and to really be recognized for your value is no longer to think of yourself just as an employee, but actually, what am I here to solve? What problem am I solving at this company? And begin to almost brand yourself as, hey, this is the problem I'm uniquely skilled at solving for the company. And then when you have that knowledge and understanding, now you can begin to go to your boss and begin to craft out a more of a detailed compensation plan for yourself. Here's how to get raises or even change jobs because you're solving a problem. These days, nobody wants to hire a quote, another employee. They want to hire someone who has a track record of solving a problem, which is typically, how do I make more money? How do I save more money? And how do I increase productivity in my company? If you can help solve one of those things, you're typically going to be more respected and paid a lot more.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I guess the last question is we've identified a cause. What practical steps can our listeners take to reframe their financial goals around a bigger mission?
Well, what you want to do, as we think about planning, I've crafted what I call the five-step millionaire money map. Over
Mhm.
25 years, I've helped a lot of people go from middle class to millionaire. And when I sold my business about 5 years ago, I wanted to give access to everyone, not just the affluent and not just people with money, but I wanted to give almost every middle class person out there, hey, what are the tools? What's this combination to the vault that has stayed locked for so long? And so step number one is identify three personal goals and three financial goals. And that is so vital. Life comes at you fast, as we talked about earlier, and without a goal, without knowing what it is I clearly want, you will get distracted. You'll have drift, life will hit you hard. But imagine if you were to go on a family vacation and your family's excited about it, they've been planning for months, you've been saving money, and you got in the minivan that morning and said, "Well, guys, I know we did the planning, but we're just going to drive and just see where we end up." Well, the family will look at you like, have you lost your mind? What are you doing? Well, don't we have a plan or a map to
Mhm.
follow? And without goals, even though people are very, very smart and they mean well, without a goal, they're simply taking a family vacation without a map and they don't know where they're going to end up. But what I like to tell people is if you can write down, here's three important financial goals and three important personal goals. So that might be I want to pay down a certain amount of my debt. I want to save X amount for retirement. I want to set up a fund to launch a business. Personal might be I want to lose X amount of weight. I want to exercise every day. I want to read a certain amount of time, whatever that may be for you. But the key to all of that, Steve, is one simple word: stakes. What are the stakes? What's at stake if you don't do those things? If I don't save for retirement, I will not be able to walk on the beach holding my spouse's hand and chasing my grandkids. That's
Mhm.
what's at stake. If I don't begin to lose weight right now and get in shape, I will not have the stamina to chase my grandkids across the floor and enjoy the life I want. So I like to say jokingly, what terrible, no good, very bad thing can happen to you if you don't achieve that goal. And so sometimes many self motivated people can set a goal and they're fine. Other people need some help, and that's where the what's at stake comes into play. That if I don't do this, here's what I'm going to miss out on. Here is my serious FOMO moment, and I don't want that to happen. So I would encourage people to write down your goals, put a date, and suddenly once you have a goal written down and then a date, and then what's at stake if you don't do it, you'll be surprised by how much momentum you can make. And then review those goals, if not daily, several times a week to remind you as to what's important to you.
Mhm. Absolutely. All right. Well, that's great. A lot for people to think about in uh, creating a bigger mission or what they will enjoy and how they spend their money and what they want to do with it, beyond just themselves. So if people are looking to do that to for help with thinking about their money and aligning it with their beliefs and goals, how can they reach out to you and how can you help them?
Yeah, two ways to help, Steve. We put together a resource that people really like, and it's called gettheraiseyouwant.com. Go to gettheraiseyouwant.com, and there's a download there that walks people through how to begin making more money. Gettheraiseyouwant.com. Also, our website, which is anyonecanbecomeamillionaire.com. Anyonecanbecomeamillionaire.com, and you can sign up for our Millionaire Insider newsletter, and it's completely free, but it's a resource that I put together each week on practical steps for people to make money, save money, and how to be more generous. So that's at anyonecanbecomeamillionaire.com.
Great. Well, I'll for you listeners out there, we'll have those links in the show notes so you can check those out and become a millionaire and do some good with some of the money you put aside.
That's right.
So thank you for coming on the show, Derek. Like I said, very few guests have been on 3 times. So I'm sure that we'll find something to talk about again in the future.
Steve, thanks for having me. I'll look forward to getting that hat or that t-shirt that says I'm a three-time guest in the mail very soon.
There you go. Bye bye.